knowledge is just a gap sometimes, right? Competence is just a gap. You can go learn it. So don't be afraid of it. I think that we get caught up as far as on the entrepreneur side of, over analyzing things and not just executing. I think execution is the key to a lot of things in life. Just do it. I want to take Nike's slogan, but it is just do it. Like there's things like if you want to live a different life and you want to lose weight, like just do it. Like there's no reason to have an excuse. And so that's the way that I was raised, is that there's no room for excuses, only results. So. And the only way to get results is just do it. You have to execute.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Culture-neer podcast. I'm your host, Terry Gwaltney. Got my co-host here beside me, Mr. Devane Prince. And man, we're excited today. We've got a longtime friend on the show today. He's a husband, father, grandfather, serial entrepreneur, just all-around good guy. Mr. Jonathon Broce, welcome to the show today.
What's up, Terry? Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, we're excited about this. I know, for the construction industry, I think you're the first company, actually, I think we've interviewed from the construction industry. And so I know you've got your hands on a lot of things. And so excited to hear the perspective as we talk about culture today. I think sometimes when people think about construction, they think about a lot of craftsmanship, but not a lot of professionalism. And, I know, within our organization, we tell our guys, just remember as we go out there, you're craftsmen and professionals serving ladies and gentlemen. And I know you kind of take the same approach. And so to kind of hear your perspective today, I think would be really good. So why don't you tell our audience kind of what companies you're with, and then just kind of dive in a little bit maybe to how you kind of got started in that field, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so background, I'm a Jimmy Buffett song. I tell everybody, like I'm the son of a roofer. My great-grandpa, my grandpa, my dad. I've been in the roofing industry all my life. Took a little stint away after high school to go to the Marine Corps, come back, worked at Lowe's, 84, didn't like it, started building houses, got out of that market crash in 08, been in the roofing ever since. So, went from the labor on the ground to nailing the roof down to installing the metal panels to, being the project manager to being the salesman, the sales trainer, sales director, operations manager, owner. So I just followed the entire blue collar path to it. And since then, I was an owner in a company, MHI Roofing, out of Pittsburgh in West Virginia, and we had a location here in Florida. We also started up another company called Ugly Roof, so it's fun. It's a roof rejuvenation stuff. Got a little bit of consulting business going on, and now I work for a company called Vertex, so which bought MHI. So we've been through some of the fun stuff of going from, carrying the shingles up the roof to selling a roofing company. So kind of got top to bottom fun stories. So yeah,
that's awesome. So generational in the trades field.
Yeah, we've my grandpa was more of a carpenter, but he was a roofer as well. My dad was strictly a commercial roofer, flat roofs, a lot of sheet metal work. So I was raised in the sheet metal shop, so learning how to do all that stuff. So putting the details together came pretty easy or natural, I would say, just because I was raised in it. I could brag or complain here, depends on how you look at it. But when I was 14, I was running Dad's crews in the summertime, all through high school. So
bragging now, complaining then probably.
yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah, So on top of that, we were also a sheep farmer. So my dad was a sheep farmer. So we raised a lot of sheep and tobacco, and just kind of raised in the country life. So it was fun.
Wow. real life trades, and now I'm talking to you in Florida today.
Yeah, so I'm in Fort Lauderdale today. So part of my new career path with Vertex is I help run the state of Florida. So I'm the COO of Florida. So we come in and we help the brands with operations and systems, and like right now we're doing some sales training and sales process stuff, and just kind of up the echelon with everybody as we can. Just keep building that culture, and just making sure that we're just keeping the good people going.
So how many companies would you say is under the umbrella of Vertex?
Currently, I think there's 21 or 22 nationwide, and I think there's probably 3 or 4 more that's coming in.
And how many of those would be like in Florida that you're dealing with on an ongoing basis?
So there was 5 in Florida. Now there's 3. So we did a little bit of a merger. So MHI Florida South, South here in Florida, we actually merged it in with another company that we purchased. So just kind of consolidated thing. It was a smaller branch. It was a $4 to $5 million branch compared to a $30 million branch. So instead of creating its own general managers and team, we just put it all together. And then we did the same thing in Orlando. We had Eustace Roofing, which is kind of the horse there. We had another brand called McHale's, and they were like an $8 to $10 million branch. We kind of just merged them together. Kind of like rising tides raise all ships. So we're now just have 3 brands currently in Florida. Probably looking for 2 more, but Kairos Roofing out of Fort Lauderdale is where I'm at. And then we've got Eustace, which is in Orlando area, and you got Handyman, which is the West Coast from Tampa to like Naples area.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, so managing 3 actual brands now. So yeah, it's fun.
That's neat. Talk to us a little bit personally. Married, kids, grandkids?
Yeah, man. Married, 5 kids, 4 grandkids, 5 grandkids, 1 more on the way. Got 2 golden doodles. Love my golden doodles. So love my wife. I like my kids. I really like my grandkids, but I love my dogs. So,
I was gonna say, I noticed you mentioned your dogs first. So.
Yeah. I love my dogs. Nah, they're fun. They're just if we could all be like dogs. I know there's bad connotation there, but like.
I know a few people that are like that.
Yeah.
They're on my other list.
yeah, the other list. But if you think about true agape love, that's a dog. No matter what, man. They're happy to see you.
That's good.
I tell my wife all the time, the dogs love me more than her. And she's like, there's no way. I said, well, let's pull this exercise. Like, I'm going to put both of you in the trunk of the car. We're going to drive around town. The first one to kiss me must be the most. So, and so like, I mean, I would never do that. But like, if you played that exercise, like my dog would hop out and be like, Dad, where were you? I was in here with Mom, like it was great. Where you been? And she's going to punch me. So to me, that's a dog's love. I don't know. It's weird, but it's fun.
It's funny. How long you guys been married?
This will be 10 years this year of marriage. We've been together 12. So yeah, and in October is our 10-year anniversary. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. Where'd you guys meet at? Or how did you meet?
So funny. It's industry, right? So she called me out for a roof estimate, and yeah, I didn't sell the roof, but I got the girl. So that's the way it goes. Yeah.
Close the deal.
Closed a deal.
Yeah.
But not the roof deal. I'm still kind of salty over it. I didn't get the roof deal. I would have made money on that deal. The other ones cost me a little money over the years, but it's all good. She's amazing. Yeah, we've been married 10 years. You talk about thick and thin. We've been through a lot together. It's kind of a blended family. So everybody carries in baggage. We've done a really good job at unloading that baggage and putting it away. So that's the hardest part. I think when you come from different backgrounds and different triggers, right? But she's an amazing woman, love of my life. So it's been amazing. So
Hey, John, I'm still here, by the way. I know it's kind of hard. You can't see me.
love it, man. No, let's
So
go.
I want to get into the meat of stuff now that I feel like I know you a little bit. So as someone who's been a beneficiary of some of your sales training in person through Zoom calls, there's some stuff I want to pick your brain on. So earlier, Terry said, craftsmanship versus professionalism. And so it sounded like you kind of started off on the craftsmanship side and moved your way to the professional side, if you will. Did you have a hard time kind of mending those two, or was that something that was natural for you? And if so, like, how did you develop that other side of yourself when you were, grew up building, but then now you're on this side, teaching salesmanship?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. So what I'll say is, man, that's a great question. So it was difficult, because the benefit that I had was on my mom's side, my grandpa there was like an insurance salesman, right? So he owned an insurance company. He did well. So I learned a lot of the sales stuff. So I had some of the natural sales stuff. My dad he was a tradesman. He wasn't a salesman. Not that he looked down on me for it, but he always gave me a hard time. Like, you're the guy now running around the air conditioned truck, right? So I actually had to fight a little bit of a cultural mindset that I had because I grew up baling hay and working on the farm and working with my hands the whole time. I could still do all that. I still love to do all that. I don't think you ever lose your roots, but it was kind of a difficult journey because I never had that as the professional mentorship. I didn't go to college, so I went in the Marine Corps. So I got quick leadership skills. Like I knew I wanted to be a leader.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I wanted to be a leader in, right? So, so you come out of there blazing hot, ready to set the world on fire. So yes, so leadership kind of came natural. Working with my hands came natural. Understanding the details was pretty natural. The hardest part was learning how to deal with personalities.
Yeah.
Because that's really what you do as a COO or CEO or general manager or project manager, whatever it is. Like when you're in a management role, you're literally learning how to manage personalities, and I think that was the main thing that I had to learn to do. And so I was able to identify that, and went out and got some coaching. Went out and started taking some courses. And I got me a coach and a mentor to kind of help me understand like how to manage properly, how to approach people, how to have real empathy, for somebody without crossing over into having sympathy. You have sympathy with people, but to truly help them, you got to be more empathetic instead of sympathetic. Because I know not just feeling sorry, for them doesn't help you solve anything.
Yeah.
I grew up under the guise of there's no such thing as a problem, right? So I got that from my dad. There's no problems. It's only unsolved opportunities. So that was instilled in me at a very early age. So like I've always had that will to try to resolve things. So it was there. It was hard to find because it wasn't just readily available. Now you can go watch a fun podcast and you can have, some people that you can, if you want to call them influencers, but people that you can follow and get, at least, hands-off mentorship, right? Follow somebody's path.
Yeah.
Early 2000s, that really wasn't a thing. So.
Yeah, that idea or, that coach, getting a coach is definitely something that's come up multiple times on this podcast. And it seems like all the greats do have coaches. I know Terry said that multiple times. So I think you kind of answered that. You were getting there. Did you intentionally seek out that coach, or did that kind of just come? Did you kind of come across it? Was the universe was working for you, or how did that what did that kind of look like?
So my passion has always been to pour back into people, and so the mentor that I wound up having was actually somebody that had a passion to pour into others. So like a lot of the consulting and stuff that I've done in recent years. I don't even charge for it. It's just, and it's not even about the money part of it. It's like, if I find somebody that values my time and willing to learn and to get better, like I love to coach myself. But it kind of just fell in my lap, to be honest. It was just it was a guy that really just kind of put his hands around me and said, you know what, let me show you a few things because you're interested. And we kind of went that way with it. And then it just kind of exploded from there. And then I went and got the professional coaching. I didn't know it was a coach at the time. It was more of a mentor, somebody that showed interest in me and said, I think you have what it takes. Because you got to think too, is like and I never really talk about this much, but some of the things that I've overcome in my life is like, I got a stutter on a list. I mean, you can probably hear it, but like up until I went into the Marine Corps, I don't want to say I was mute, but I didn't talk much because I got made fun of a lot. I got bullied a lot. So like I had this, this misconception about myself, right? That I couldn't do it because I wasn't good enough. The Marine Corps actually helped me bring that out, right? Like, I mean, they were hard on you, and they've made fun of me in a fun way, right? But I learned to actually speak better. I learned how to get around that. What actually started that drive was I had a guy I was building houses, and I wanted to go get a sales job, and he's like, yeah, he goes, you'll never be good at sales because you can't even speak. And I kind of like put a little fire in me to where then I started to seek things out, like how can I do this? Because I'd been in speech therapy my whole life. But then it like put a different fire in me. And then this, the mentor that fell in my lap just kind of, he kind of took me under his wing and was like, you know what, let me show you a few things. So it started out as a fire because I was mad, because somebody said I couldn't do it, so I'm going to do it. But then it turned into, this is why I did it. This is why that you go through all these things in life, right? I mean, adversity is just part of it, so.
Yeah. Well, I think that's real important for the people that are listening, because I think so many times we all have an excuse, to justify why we're at, because where we're at is we're generally complaining about it because it's not where we want to be. And if you can take,
that's fair.
If you can take kind of what life throws you, I mean, you basically took lemons and turned it into lemonade, that old adage. But I think much like Michael Jordan, I always admire him when I'm thinking about leadership, because it was his leadership is why we still call him the greatest of all time. But he was a master at taking anything the competition would say about him, and then he would use that to amp his game to another level. And I remember when he first came back after he was gone, 2 years, after his dad died, if you know much about his story. And he actually come back with a new number. He had always been 23. When he come back, he was 45. And the guy was guarding him the first game. And he told him, he said, well, one thing I can tell you is 43 is not 23, or 45 is not 23. That was on after that. I mean, he embarrassed that guy completely.
I love it.
But he would always use something that the competition would say, much like what you did. Somebody said, you can't do it. And I'm going to use that as fuel to show you that I can. And I think that's something that all leaders, we have to learn, because, you can make excuses or you can make progress, but you can't make both. And if you'll own that and then use some of that stuff as fuel, it's amazing what we can do.
Yeah, and I think it helped too when like one thing that I was taught by my first mentor was, it was more about storms. It was weird. It's like, he said, you're either in a storm, you're coming out of a storm, or you're going into a storm. Life's one big storm. That's all it is. You got to learn to navigate and be joyful. And so, like, if we hit a little bit of the, of the Christianity side of this, like I got into Matthew 6 on this and learned what anxiety and what depression was, because that's what I was doing. I was anxious and I was depressed. And when you can live in the moment, that's when you find the true joy. So if you can enjoy what you're doing right this moment, like, and be present in the moment, that's where joy comes from. And knowing that no matter what's around you, there's always a storm around you. And there's the old Indian story that I love, that they talk about cattle and buffalo whenever a storm runs in, right? So a storm's blowing in across the Midwest, the cows, they run from the storm as hard as they can, as fast as they can, and by the time the storm catches up to them, say it's a big hailstorm or whatever, like, it winds up, they're so tired and worn out and beaten up that the storm takes them out, it takes them down. But the buffalo, when a storm's coming in, they run straight into the storm. So I took that I took those analogies together. It's like, I'm always in a storm. When a storm happens, you run straight into it because it actually takes less energy to run because you're opposing the storm. You're going the opposite way of the storm. You get through the storm faster because you hit it head on.
Yeah.
That's good.
Where if the storm's chasing you the whole time, you're wore out because it's chasing you. So just hit it head on and move on. And just go get through it because that's the fastest way to get through the storm. So when I was able to really make that connection that life's one big storm, not in a negative way, it just is what it is. Like, things are going to happen. It made me a better leader. It made me a better father, husband, everything. Like, because like you can now be stoic in those moments of fear when everybody else is running.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think you said so much in all of that, but I think people confuse so much happiness with joy. Happiness is dependent on what's going on right now. Joy is a decision.
Yes, 100%.
And
Love's
so,
a decision. Agape, love is a decision.
Yeah, it's not based on what you do or don't do for me. It's a decision that was already pre-made.
Yes.
And it definitely changes the outcome because it impacts your attitude. We had a guy on the show, it was Greg Dietrich, and he was talking one time, he was sharing this story of a tree, I believe it was in Arizona, and they basically had created this perfect environment under a dome to be able to grow different things, and one of them was these trees, and they grew just like exponentially. But what they found is once they removed the dome, as soon as the wind come along, they toppled. And what he was saying is, and he had a talk on facing the wind, I think is what he called it. But what he said is because the tree had grew up in this unnatural environment, it from a sapling had never had to endure the winds, and the winds caused the roots to go deeper and it made it stronger. So by the time it got super tall like a big oak, it could withstand those. And so we want to run, like you were saying, from the storm and the wind, but the reality is it's that adversity that kind of brings that strength, and it's what produces character in us.
100%.
Which is the only thing that's going to allow us to, be successful
and
over the long haul.
I love the tree analogy because, like, for the consulting side, it was System Thrive, and that's what it is we have a tree with the roots, because the roots are way more important than what the branches can actually bring you as far as fruit goes. So if you don't have the right roots and the right the right foundation, and it depends on how you want to view that, like, you can't bear fruit, right? So it can't get the nutrients it needs. So, and having roots can be anything from setting, standards for yourself, right? Like, hey, I'm shutting my phone off at 7:00 to just spend time with my wife tonight. Those things were hard, especially as an entrepreneur, right? Those things are hard to do. And actually my partner, Ty, really taught me that. So he was like, hey, 6:00, we turn it off. 7:00, we turn it off. And that was like as a mentor in my life. He was a business partner, but as a mentor, like, I learned a lot on that too, because I was so driven to get things done, to get there faster, to work the 180 hours, to make sure that I was ahead of everybody else, but because I never wanted to be second place. And it's not about, I want to be the best of the first or whatever. It's like, I just always wanted to be ahead. Not financially. I don't even care about money. Like, I'm the weirdest person possible as far as that goes, but I just always wanted to be, I just wanted to be ahead of any problems. And when he taught me that it'll be here in the morning, that was like very, very, it was like this peace came over me. Like, wow, like, that's how you find joy. It's like you literally live in the moment. So it kind of solidified, everything I'd already had in my upbringing as a teaching, but it's kind of cool. Like you can go back and look at the crumb trail in life and think, like, you can pull this little piece out and put it together. Like, that's what made me who I am. But if you don't look back and recognize it, like I don't look back much because I don't like the depression side of, oh, I messed up, I did this. But when you look back at these little nuggets that you pick up, it's like, that's really cool, because like that was the little piece that I needed to really understand, finding joy, and it had a new meaning. And when I'm reading through, that Matthew 6, like it helped me understand it even more. Even though it had nothing to do with the same conversation, right? So It's really cool how those nuggets come along.
Yeah, we spent an hour yesterday in training, and what we were talking about was, if you want to live the life that you always want to live, you have to be willing to do the work of the self-awareness. And of course, that breaks down into a lot of things, allowing, different people to speak into your life, having somebody with a different perspective sit at the table. But it was all about, the weaknesses we have. We know we could tell you what our weaknesses are. We're working on them, but we can't tell you what our blind spots are because we don't know what they are. Yeah, and creating a culture, where you invite those people that you trust that have your best interest to be able to speak into that. That's really what propels you. And I love what you said a while ago when you were using the analogy of the tree. You were talking about the foundation. On this show, we talk a lot because I think the average person running a company is so consumed in kind of what you were describing a while ago. It's very much a workaholic, but it's also like, that sounds good and that sounds important, and I want to get to that someday, but I got to make payroll. I need to keep the IRS off my back. I've got an audit with the insurance company. I got 2 employees and 5 angry customers, and I don't have time. But the reality is that the culture component of what we're talking about is the foundation. And if that's not right, then you're going to be putting fire. You're going to be a professional fireman putting fires out all the time. And so getting people to understand, like, hey, let's reverse this. This is not something you do when you're tweaking the business, when you've reached, this monumental plateau, but just the opposite. It's the foundational portion of, you think about that, if you think about culture, what is it? It's shared experiences with your people. It's a shared language. It's shared values. It's moving in the same direction. Well, how are you going to get a crowd to do that if you haven't spent the time on the foundation to identify, this is what we believe, this is what we value, this is how we do our mission, and this is our vision on where we're ending up? You don't do that in reverse. And so I think what you're saying is so important.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, I agree.
Question, you mentioned your dad a while ago, and that was a powerful quote. I'm guessing he must have had a big impact on your life. Greatest lesson, maybe if you look back, that you think he taught you?
Man, I got a bunch of them. Emotionally, I'll try not to get all the way in it, but my sister was down this weekend, and with my nephew and stuff. They came down for a week and spent some time there. But so my dad. So let's go to the funny side of the stuff that I learned. So my dad he always told me that if you're stupid, you got to be tough. If you're clumsy, you got to be quick. So he said I was the toughest, quickest kid he ever met, right? So so impactfully, like one of the things that he said that meant a lot. He was really good at saying I love you and all that kind of stuff. So I was never deprived of that. But I disappointed him one time, and disappointing your dad's hard, right? Especially when he says, I'm disappointed in you. So, and it was about 3 to 4 years later that he finally said, I'm proud of you.
Wow.
That's the salve that kind of helped heal a 3-year wound, I bet.
Well, but here's the thing. It gave me what I needed because, it's one of those things where he would say, it took me 30 years to build my name, and you can ruin it in 30 seconds. And so it gave me that real perspective of what that meant. But the one thing that he said, the best compliment he ever gave me was more of like, he's not afraid. Like he'll do it. And so that was cool that he noticed that that's who I was. I'm not afraid of it. There's very little that I'm afraid of, because I don't think there's much to be afraid of. There's really not. There's when you do the right thing and you try to stay transparent with your people, when you if you just strive to do the right thing, there's not a whole lot to be afraid of. Knowledge is just a gap sometimes, right? Competence is just a gap. You can go learn it. So don't be afraid of it. I think that we get caught up as far as on the entrepreneur side of, over analyzing things and not just executing. I think execution is the key to a lot of things in life. Just do it. I want to take Nike's slogan, but it is just do it. There's things like if you want to live a different life and you want to lose weight, just do it. There's no reason to have an excuse. And so that's the way that I was raised, is that there's no room for excuses, only results. So, and the only way to get results is to just do it. You have to execute. So.
It's good.
It's good. I think we've kind of laid the foundation of who you are there. So I kind of want to jump into culture a little bit. So
Yeah.
I know you've built some companies. Like you said, you're an entrepreneur and owner of several different companies. So what would your definition of culture be?
Of culture by itself. So culture is, to me, it's a lifestyle. Like it needs to be a genuine empathy that you have with your people, like that you can meet them where they're at in that moment. And that could be in a positive light. You can create it as a negative light. But when you can meet somebody right where they're at and then look to make their life better. So like, everything that I've always tried to do culturally is, I think about my people first. Like, how can I make their life better? Right? Because if I make their life better, then they're going to make the customer's life better. It's like I'm kind of removed from the front line. So I like the way that Henry Ford kind of had things. He would say that he takes care of his people would take care of the customer. So it starts at the top. So if I'm late to a meeting, I can't expect them to not be late to a meeting. If I'm cussing and acting a fool, I can't expect them not to act that way. So I think it's all eyes on me type of a thing in a positive way. Is like, how can I make an impact without ever saying a word? To me, that's culture. How does my lifestyle match what I want them to do? If I'm not doing it, how can I expect you to do it? So I think that's, to me, culture is like, I live what I preach, if you will. And I'm not a preacher, but but I live what I preach with that. Like if we need to be there 15 minutes early, I'm 15 minutes early. So I think setting the culture by example is to me is what leadership is. Because a leader, to me, by definition, is you go first. So you're in the front. You're not in the back. So to be the leader, you have to go first. You have to do the hard stuff, and you have to have them understand that you understand that it's hard.
Why do you think that's so important, just for an organization as a whole? Because obviously you have good culture and you have bad culture. We experienced them both.
So I read this book one time. It's kind of a weird way to bring it in there, but I read this book called The 1 Minute Manager. And in that book, it talks about looking for things that people are doing right instead of looking for things that people are doing wrong. So if you're looking for things that people are doing right and you can create that positive culture, it's a lot easier to go to them when they're doing something wrong and have that conversation, right? Because you're not always just harping on somebody. Because at the end of the day, like, people's mental health is the most important thing that you're really managing. How do I make this impact to where they're going to go home and be like, man, like, I love working there. Like, how do you get the wife and the kids to support the husband that's there, or vice versa, right? So you have to treat them with respect, and you have to, I don't want to pull in the adage of it's the golden rule, but you really treat them the way that you want to be treated, and if I treat them poorly, then they're going to treat other people poorly. So like I've always tried to be mindful of like how you treat people. I think that's the most important part of it, is meeting them right exactly where they're at. They might have made a huge mistake. They might have made a huge mistake in their life or their marriage or work. It's kind of like if somebody's not meeting their numbers, it's not like I go in there and be like, hey, like, you've not met your numbers for the last 3 months, get it together. So I'm like, hey man, like, this isn't you. Like, what's going on? Is there something that we can do to help? Is there anything that we can do to try to, to kind of pull through this? Like, this isn't your normal performance. And because the way that we've always graded everybody was on, like, internally within the organization is always attitude, effort, and performance. Attitude is the number one thing. If somebody's attitude's bad, I don't care how well their performance is, I've got to get them to a better attitude. So attitude is always the first thing that we're measuring. Effort is second. The performance is last. I'd much rather have somebody that's cheerful to be around, that their performance is mediocre than to have somebody that's a high performer that you can't stand to be around.
For sure.
So I think that's I don't know. I think I kind of hit a couple of rabbit holes there, but I think it kind of brings it back to like, you have to really love and have a passion for your people, but there's this balance to not get too close too, right? So I mean, you got to be just close enough to know what's going on, but not so close that it allows them to make excuses.
Yeah, I think when you say that, I think one of the greatest examples is probably like how we parent.
Yeah.
You want to be able to parent your kids where they feel like they know not only you have their back, but they can talk to you about anything, but you don't want to cross the line to where you just become their friend.
Yes.
And
Yep.
some parents
Exactly.
confuse those, so easily, and then their kids are all messed up. And I've seen people trying to run a company the same way.
Well, we can be
there's a
friends
fine
later,
line.
right? As a parent, but after they're graduated out of school, have a kids, like now I'm more friends with my kids than when I was with them growing up. But like now you can be their friend, right? And you
Right.
can help them and guide them but you're right. It's like there's this time in this period of time when you have to really know that there's freedom and discipline, right? So I think that's a big thing. And just getting up and doing a routine sounds boring, but it helps you mentally and helps you physically, like just get through life. So
It's good.
Yeah, so I'm sensing a theme here, and it really always comes back to the people, which is another theme throughout the entire podcast, I think, with most leaders. So it sounds like with Vortex, you kind of came into some companies that were already established. Is that correct?
yeah. So Vertex's focus is people first. Like when you think about private equity, like it's scary, man, because you can hear some horror stories about it. We took a year and a half to really study the companies, what they did, the investment firm that's backing them, other companies that they've done. The thing I love about Vertex is they look at the asset that they purchased has nothing to do with money and EBITDA. It's the people. Like the biggest purchase that they make is that culture and in those people. That's why that we align so well with them. Of course, you got to make money at the end of the day, right? But if you have the right people, the people in place that understand what's going on, that is your number one valued asset. If you treat your number one asset really, really poorly, and don't tend to it, it's not going to grow. It's not going to thrive. So, to me, that's where Vertex really plays a critical role. And one is like cool, crazy stat is I think they've interviewed 1,800 roofing companies, and they've purchased 20.
Wow.
So and they've only made offers to 30. So like it's not even like so it's they're very picky on having the right culture, and we fit 100%. I mean, we're 99.9% alignment on all the culture. Like it's people first. Like I can tell you this, like crazy thing. At MHI, we had one of our sales reps passed away in the beginning of May. He's an older guy, great guy. His son works for us, phenomenal family. He was a newer rep for us, and we had just started up life insurance on May 1st. He passed away on May 3rd. Well, that Monday we were supposed to, launch everybody to get their beneficiary lined out, right? So he didn't even have his beneficiary written out yet. They made sure it was taken care of. They did all the paperwork. They consoled, the widow. Like they made sure everything happened without us even having to really ask. Like, hey, this is what happened. Like, you know what? Let's get it taken care of. So, like, just being able to offer that to your people. Like now we offer. Like now they have life insurance paid by the company. Benefits paid by the like. There's a lot of good things there, but it's all about they take care of the people first, and that was really like. That spoke a lot to me, even though I knew that we were in the right spot. It was like, that's just one more thing to say, I know that we're in the right spot because they took care of her like immediately and made sure that everything was taken care of. And they didn't know him from anybody, but he was part of the team. He was the team. He was a new member of MHI. He was 2 months in, but he was part of the team. And they took care of the family, and I loved it.
So how would you say they go in and diagnose and say, hey, this is a culture that fits what we're looking for, or maybe this one doesn't fit? Are you part of that, and kind of what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's literally you sit down with somebody, and then you talk to them, and you find out what actually motivates them. You find out really quick when you're talking to a leader on what really motivates them. You can tell by. I'll be honest, like I could look at their Facebook or their Instagram and tell you really quick what motivates them. You know what I mean? Like if they're showing up in Maseratis every day, like they're probably not saying that they don't, but that's like the first red flag, right? It's like, this guy doesn't care about his people enough to show up to the office in a Maserati when he's got a girl that works over in accounting that sees what he makes, that's making $40,000 a year. Like you have to be humble on the face of everything. Could I go buy a Maserati? Sure, probably. Do I want to? No, like I don't see it as a good investment, but I'm saying and I'm using that as an example, but like to me, that's like the things that you look for. How do they talk about their people? How do they talk about their success? Who gets the credit for it? When it's the entrepreneur saying, I, me, it's the I, me thing, I call it, right? It's meism. Like they're not a good fit. It has to be we and they. So when they say, hey, we were able to do this, my team was able to do this, or like it's all in how they speak. Like literally, like that's probably the number one thing that we're listed is how do you speak about your people and the team there.
I think that's so good because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they look at their people as numbers and liability, and they don't look at them as people and assets.
They're assets.
And very much so. It's interesting that you would say that, a multi-billion-dollar corporation is coming in and evaluating the people asset over anything else, which I think totally confirms everything that, we're talking about. Because if you run that all the way to the other end of the spectrum, we know that the customer experience will never be greater than the employee experience. And
exactly.
So am I spending this money out here to make this customer experience better because they get cookies at the end of the job? Am I investing that money into the people, that are bought in at 120% engagement, that are now taking care of the customer like it was their own and it was their own company? And so It's a mindset shift. So
no, I agree with that. Yeah. And empowering your people to go. So that's the main thing, is just empowering them to take care of the customer, but you have to take care of your people. So my people became my customer, and that's the way that I had the advantage or the perspective on, was like, they are now my customer. I have to take care of them.
That's good.
Because they're going to go take care of the customer. So it's not like a chain of command. I don't want to deal with the customer. It's not that. It's like they have to learn and grow and learn what empathy is with the customer, and give them some training on like how to talk to a customer. Like I love fire drills. I hate to say that, but I kind of like a little bit of chaos occasionally when we mess up. Because I love to see the end result, because everybody's coming in and they're all upset. Like, what do we do? This person's threatened to call the attorney, and I'm like, well, what does it take to do the right thing? And they're like, well, I don't know what you mean. Like, well, what is the right thing? Let's work this through. Like, what did we have wrong? No, they're just overzealous about something. Well, are they? Right? Like, we set an expectation that they're going to get this white glove service, and we didn't put the gloves on. So, like, we're wrong, right? How do we fix it, right? You can't just always just throw money at it. One of the main things that I've learned with customer service is just listen to them. Most of the time, if you just listen to them and you really have good empathy training, like, hey, listen, I understand where you're coming from. What feedback could we take back to the team to do better next time? And people love to be your mentor now, and they'll tell you what you did wrong, and then they'll wind up calming down some. So, yeah. So but if you do that with your team, they'll stay calm and do that with the customer.
That's good. Just back to the same thing you were saying earlier. You got to model it as the leader.
That's it, man. True. Yeah.
So we know retention is probably now just as critical as recruitment. And I think culture is like the linchpin to all that. Speak to that a little bit. How important do you think that is? Current climate we're in.
Yeah. So you think assets, right? So people are assets. So they're an investment. So, meeting them where they're at, I mean, we're kind of hitting the same drum, but being able to retain someone is actually more cost effective than recruit, hire, train someone. So retaining them, like nobody really ever leaves because they're not making enough money. They usually leave because they have bad management and bad leadership, right? Sure, money plays into it. We're in a tough economy. How do you spread the wealth out? How do you make sure that everybody can buy their groceries this week, right? But I think the main thing or the main theme with that is just being consistent in your message to your people and being as transparent as what you can about market conditions and even the profitability of the company. I mean, there's times when you have to take concessions as a company to get through a bad quarter or to get through a bad year even. I think when you're transparent and I think when they understand that we're here to take care of a customer, we're here to take care of you guys, but money's tight right now, cash flow is tight. I think if you have the right culture, I think everybody's okay with it. Our retainage has been really, really good. We haven't really lost many employees over the last few years. So like retaining them to me is just part of it. Like you hire slow, fire fast, because I have fired a few that in 2 weeks they just didn't work out. Like they weren't a cultural fit, so we got rid of them immediately. So I think that's the main thing. Is like so let me back up here. We have fired some people, but it's been within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks. Like you find out really quick if they're going to fit culturally. But I look for feedback from the team too. Like how's Bob doing? Like, and when they give you the feedback that Bob's great, man. He's responsive. He loves to help. Like okay, cool. Like he's the right guy. I can teach you to do anything, as long as you got the willingness and the right attitude. So I think retainage is just about managing attitude and making sure that everybody's staying positive. The money will flow. I've never chased money. So if somebody's having a hard time or they're in and they deserve a raise, like we're going to make sure that you're doing this, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, like making sure that they're getting their raises as possible without them asking us for it. To me, that's probably the number one key to retainage is making sure that you recognize them and you give them a raise or a bonus or a spiff or something without them asking for it. Like find what they're doing good. It's like, hey, we had a really good month this month, and I think it's because Terry did a great job with these 3 hard customers that we had to deal with. You know what, Terry? Take your wife on a 4-day vacation to Gatlinburg. Whatever. Like these little incentives that they didn't even know were going to happen, they go a long way.
For sure.
So you're talking about hiring there, and as someone who looks up to you in this industry, what do you think is the most important character trait or strength of someone that someone needs in order to be successful in this industry?
So it depends on the position, but if there's just one character trait, it's going to be honesty, no matter what. Like you just have to be a genuine, honest, and humble person. If you're not going to make it anywhere. Or at least not in our company. I think that's probably the number one thing that you have to really look for. Somebody's integrity, somebody's honesty, to make sure that they can take feedback well. That'd be coachable,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Got to be a lifetime learner.
Yeah. They'd be coachable. So we rarely hire within the industry, especially on the sales side. Like, there's times when you have to hire service managers with experience or ops managers or stuff like that. But for the most part, like we really just hire personality and just try to make sure that they're a person of integrity.
Sounds like sound advice. Listen, we're going to have to wrap this thing up here pretty quickly. What's one piece of advice you'd like to leave with our listeners today, maybe on how they can improve the culture of their organization?
Be first. Go first. In the Marine Corps, it's first to go and last to know. Same thing here. Just be the first to do it. It's procrastination is what's going to kill a culture. If you know that you have to do something, if you know you got to get rid of somebody, if you know that you have to change something, don't wait. Do it. Like if you know that something's not good for the team, don't wait. Do it. Address it immediately, because those things, people look at you as an incompetent leader when you don't take care of problems. So if you got to do it, do it. You got to make the hard decisions, and you got to do it quickly. In my mind, So that's the best advice: is when you got to do it, do it. Don't wait around. It's okay to think about certain things. It's okay to take a day, sleep on it, take a weekend, but you can't procrastinate for weeks on end. You just got to take action.
So what's one action that our listeners could implement today to start making a positive impact on their organization's culture?
Yeah, I like that. I think find external coaching for your people. We did that about 3 years ago. I was the coach for a while, and then you get too close to people. Invest in your people as far as external coaching. Find somebody, if you could reach out. I know some good guys. Terry's a good guy, Reggie Brock, Jeff Valder. There's these guys in the industry that are really good mindset coaches that I would invest in your people that way. If you really feel that they can go to the next level, invest in them. If you invest in them, they'll invest into you and into your company and into your vision. Make the vision small enough that they can accomplish it too. I think I know we all have these big goals, big visions, big lofty things, but I think a lot of times it doesn't make sense to people. When I'm talking about a 5-year plan, for us to be at $5 billion and we'll be at $1 billion in sales and in this market alone, people don't understand that. So make visions and goals that they can attain in 90 days and keep giving them those small 30 to 90 day wins. And it's okay to keep moving the goal line, right? So I know that sounds weird, but I know we want to have a goal and you're going to hit it, but you don't always hit that goal. Your goal that you set might not have been the actual goal that you thought that you should have set.
Yeah.
So it's good to have goals. It's good to have KPIs. It's good to be measurable, but the goal might have been to hit $12 million, but you actually learned a lot in the process, and you raised up 3 more leaders, and you did 11.5. To me, I won, right? You win, in that same realm. So, don't be afraid to change your goal, because I think it's never a moving target.
Incremental success, that motivates people far more.
Absolutely.
Last question: how do you want to be remembered when your life here on Earth's over?
Oh, I hate this question. All right, so I love this question, but I get emotional with it, so that's why I hate it. So I'll try to get emotional. So, all right, this goes back to my dad, right? So, and it came down to, he would always ask the question, how do you measure success? And he'd ask everybody this, and when I do this, when I do that, when I get the legacy, when I do this, and he kept it simple, and I never understood it. Of course, until he passed away, he said, "I'll know I'm a success when my kids don't have to rent pallbearers." And man, the night of his wake, it was a 3-hour ordeal scheduled. We were there almost 6 hours because they were lying around the building.
Wow,
what a testimony.
So I want to, I don't think I'll ever know if I'm successful based on his logic until I'm dead and gone. But I just want to, and it's not a legacy. I don't want to leave anything behind except for, that he loved the people around him, and he would do anything for you. That's what I want to be known for.
That's good. So good. That sounds like your dad was a life well lived.
Yep, and I didn't cry, almost, but I didn't cry. So I'm getting better at telling that one. But yeah, but it was powerful. It was impactful. It was something that I never understood until I was 42 years old when he passed away. Right, like he always said it, never understood it, couldn't just put it together. You're like, Dad, it's just weird. That's a weird thing to say. But when we didn't have to rent pallbearers, right? Everybody wanted to carry him to the grave. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty that was pretty impactful. Like it had its moment at that moment. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Listen, man, I appreciate you taking time. I know you're busy. I appreciate you getting a little personal there, sharing your experience. Hopefully, I know if people are listening, we'll just execute on half of what we talked about today. It can really propel them in their careers, and I know there'll be a whole lot of employees that'll be saying thank you if their leaders will, step up and lean in a little bit here. And so, we say on this show all the time, legacy is not so much what you leave to people, it's really what you leave in them. And I think you've made a deposit today in our audience, and for that, we'll forever be grateful. So
thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Great
it.
having you on the show. All right, guys, we're going to sign out. I'm Terry. This is Devane. We'll see you next time on the Culture-neer.
See you guys.
Terry Gwaltney from the Culture-neer podcast. Listen, I want to say thank you for listening to the podcast today. I also want to encourage you to help us get the message out to more people. If you could like, share, and review this content on wherever you consume it, if you go into YouTube or LinkedIn or just whatever your social media channels are, and you could even share it, that would be a big help to us here at the Culture-neer podcast. Also, if you'd like some more information, you can go to www.terrygwaltney.com, where we have updates. We also have more resources. We share articles there. And you also can find our new book there called The Culture-neer. Again, we want to thank you again for taking time just to listen to the podcast or view it on YouTube. It's our goal to spend 20 or 30 minutes each time we're together to help grow your culture to a point where your employees refuse to leave and your customers can't resist. This is Terry. We'll talk to you soon.